There we go. So this is Samantha Bryant, and tell us about your research.
All right, so I did a policy analysis on fuel, and what I did was I developed a criteria right here as to which fuel would be the best for further implementation. I analyzed ethanol and algae, and the criteria that I have are that the cost for the producers and consumers would be economically feasible. It would end the United States dependency or lessen the United States dependency on foreign oils. It would create jobs as well as pre-existing infrastructure could be used, and it would be friendly for the environment. Based off this criteria, I found that algae was the best source of fuel for implementation. Now, this is a new development. It's probably only been developed the past 5 years by Sapphire Energy, and now we have over 150 companies that are looking to create this green crude. That is what the algae fuel is called. If you look right here, this is how the fuel is actually developed and is put into these tubes. It is not affected by the weather because it can be virtually grown anywhere as long as there's sunlight, or you can also use heat lamps. Another thing that is an interesting fact of 1/3 Department of Defense and Delta planes are actually flown on green crude, and it can be used in pre-existing infrastructure, as you can see right here. Now, in comparison to ethanol that we have right here, this actual alcohol substance is actually mixed with 15% of crude oil, so technically that is not ending the United States dependency on foreign oils, and the price of corn will go up for the consumers. Also, this is not clean for the environment because when it is being refined, it actually lets off toxins into the air and pollutes it. So the algae does not do that. The only thing is the recent development, so policymakers will need to allocate more money in order for them to really implement this and get it out to the consumers. So, and then the last piece of information is that this is what it would look like, an algae farm right here. Now, legislation was introduced in the last Congress, and it is actually on the Senate agenda, and it will give taxpayers, or give companies tax incentives to implement algae as a fuel.
And did you say you worked as a congressional intern?
Yes, I received all of my research as a congressional intern. I worked in Congresswoman Mary Bonomack's office from California, and we are really big on energy because our district is located in the desert, and this would create a lot of jobs out there.
And what we had talked about in class was the American Clean Energy Act in 2009. You're saying the other legislation that had been introduced was after that?
Yes. Actually, they were introduced around the same time. However, the 2009 one, the first one, the Clean Energy, was actually, it just added in more research for algae. However, the other one that was introduced actually really focused on giving companies tax incentives. So that actually went further than the Clean Air Act.
And did you say, who's the congressman who sponsored the...
Congressman Bill Bryant from California.
California.
So California is a huge state that is actually taking part in energy policies because, their job market is really affected, so this would generate a lot of jobs.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So if you all can tell this graph right here, it says that $3 billion have been allocated to ethanol research and the implementation of ethanol because it was developed in the 1970s. So it's a pretty long time. And then you look right here when solar and wind energy, right there that's 19%. So that's starting to grow. And as you can tell right here, the biodiesel, which is algae, is 5% right there. So this is a recent development, and you can tell that it's will soon start to grow if further implementation measures are taken.
And we didn't talk about the production and imports graph. Briefly, what are you depicting here?
So I'm depicting that the United States is heavily depending on foreign oil, and it goes to show from 1920 on, if you look at what the production was, the production was up, and then it clearly started to decline, and we're depending more on foreign oil. So, and not only are we depending on these foreign countries, this is also a national security issue. And also, if natural disaster comes, like Hurricane Katrina, and we see the price of, we don't have a domestic fuel that we can rely on. We have to rely on foreign oil, and especially now with the crisis in Libya, we've seen, as you can tell, I mean, gas prices racking up to $4 by the summertime. It could be $6 a gallon, so it's really important for us to implement some type of renewable fuel.